JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Thursday, September 25th, 9:17 on this fine morning. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P futures down about 0.5% here. NASDAQ futures down about 0.75%. Small cap futures down over 1%. It looks like continuation here today. NASDAQ was on a epic 9-session rally, and then 2 red days in a row, and all of a sudden, all the bears are going to come out of the cave, and here we are. Here we are again. Everybody's be patting themselves on the back, saying, "Told you so, told you so." We'll see what happens here, right? I mean, always, yep. Market takes the stairs up and the escalator down, or whatever acronym or analogy you want to use. Um, we'll see how this setup plays out. I keep talking somewhat of like a news vacuum or catalyst vacuum this week. This morning we got the final read on the second quarter GDP. That came in 3.8%, up from 3.3 estimates. So just great growth, right? If you're looking for a strong GDP number, that was it. That was it. Then weekly jobless claims, which somewhat looked like they were ticking in the wrong direction. All of a sudden, they came in less than expectations. 215,000 job claims versus 233,000 job estimate. That's not like a huge deal, but it kind of, with the Fed's case for cutting rates in September was the jobs market, right? So if the economic data remains strong, inflation remains in line or cooling off, then if the jobs market isn't crumbling like Powell was kind of concerned about, then it's like, oh my gosh, are they going to really stoke a fire in regards to the economy? And then if that's the case, then already cutting rates. What are they going to do? So we'll see how things play out here. I put it on the watch list this morning. I'm not saying today and tomorrow will kind of set the tone if this is the start of a correction, but certainly kind of want to see the market find some footing here. 660 on the SPY. That was the kind of line in the sand yesterday. We got to it at 12:30, bounced, and then chopped around for the rest of the day in a somewhat tight fashion, at least after the pull into the noon hour. And then the thing, I always try and find half glass full scenarios or things to look at, give a little optimism. The VIX was in the red yesterday, down 3%. So maybe things will change here. I think probably for the next, you'll probably get sick of me saying it, but the circle jerk in regards to AI and CapEx, I mean, that trend continues. And yesterday was the energy names, right? OKLO, Bloom Energy. I'm trying to think of some of the other names. Taking on the chin. They're taking on the chin again this morning. So I don't know if is that the first shoe to drop. The thing is with some of those names like OKLO, it's no revenue, right? So it's like Taseko on its epic run when it was at $50 and $75 and $100. All those people who normally short these names were saying, oh, it doesn't deserve this valuation. It just kept going, right? It's $70 to $140 by the end of by just in the month of September. So when these pull, it's not like they're going to pull 1% or 2%. They have massive pulls, right? And they'll shake out the bulls, embolden the bears, and then there'll be some price discovery. But again, just things I'm watching. And yesterday when we were starting to break the 660 support on the SPY, I was looking for some put opportunities or at least hedges. And I go back to those names, and I was looking at Broadcom, and Broadcom was kind of resilient, got down to 336 and bounced, closed at 339. I was looking at some of the chip names, AMD. We'll see how things play out here today. But I put on the watch list. I'll probably, if we don't find a decent bounce after the open, I'll probably look for some spec positions, probably SQQ calls, maybe some Broadcom puts, probably the 320s. All right, so that's kind of the overall market. And then the other thing of note too is that when we have somewhat an environment where there's not as many catalysts and news events that might drive the market, then you have to look at some of the underlying things, and that's why I keep looking at yields. Right, don't want to see those yields continue to ramp higher. Just hopefully at some point the 10-year starts to fizzle, either just flat lines or heads lower, and that's that. All right, so now quick on just individual names. Cardlytics, you have Citron Research again with I wouldn't even say again. It seems like when he came out with his bold tweets last week, it's almost like he was like, okay, let me get this out quick, and then he waited a week to finally put out his post, because a lot of times he puts out some kind of bull or bear case, some of the items of why he's bullish or bearish. And he finally did that with Cardlytics yesterday, 10 reasons why he thinks it's, coming back from the dead. And they're all great points. Some of them could have been combined. It could have been like 7 reasons, because some of them were kind of like in the same kind of grouping. But he made some good points. And then the other point that I don't have as Cardlytics is some kind of news event, right? A partnership or a deal with Uber Eats, DoorDash, he put Expedia. Maybe those are probably some things that things I'm not looking at. But I keep saying I look at Cardlytics. I'm like, it could be a $10 stock tomorrow, and I wouldn't look at it like, oh my gosh, it's overvalued or what. I think there it would still opportunity for upside. So, and that's without any catalyst. So we'll see what today brings. The thing back in the summer in July it ran all the way up to 320 and then just fell to, I think it's like 12 straight sessions to the downside or close to it into August from 320 down to $1. And then it hit in the 80s and at the start of September. Same thing here, right? I wonder or worry that it's had these pumps and then it just sells off after that and it kind of just, the gains evaporate. We'll see. Maybe it can buck the trend here today. If it holds green, maybe 270, 280. I might look for the January strikes finally. Still have the freebie October 3s and October 4s. That's Cardlytics. Edit. And actually just did have news this morning. Still have January strikes on Edit. These are freebies as well. I was looking for further out strikes. The Mays look interesting. Maybe the 750s. We'll see if there's continuation here today. If there is, maybe I'll look for some calls there. It's funny. Some of these small cap bios, I was talking about it maybe like 2 months ago, May, June, July, somewhere in there. The Corbuses, the Term Pharmaceuticals, and those have all been on slow, steady, massive. I wouldn't say massive runs, but Corbus I think was $6. That's like $11. Zyme's another name, ZYME. So I don't know if these are the end of these runs or they're starting. You look at Edit, I'm like, this could be the start of a run to $5, $6, $7, $8 and beyond. So that's Edit. Then other names I'm looking at, and take a look at Lemonade. Last Friday afternoon, I was kicking myself. Wow, it was $61, finally into the 60s, multi-month highs. And then it looked like continuation Monday and Tuesday. It was $62 on Tuesday, and then boom, just gave it back. And even yesterday it was looking okay, and then end of day pulled back all the way down to $53. Down 15%, no news, no catalyst. I don't know if that's an opportunity or that means the bears are finally in control. We'll see. $50 is right at the 50-day moving average, so I'll be watching for some opportunities to play some lottos possibly on that one. Same with Reddit, and Reddit's down. I don't know if it's 8 to 10%, but last Thursday, a week ago, it was looking like it was going to completely break through the 300 handle. It was 282. It looked like momentum was in its favor, and then you fast forward 4 sessions to the downside, and here it is into the 230s. So, what is it right now? Is it in the 220s? I didn't even pull that up. I don't think nothing. Just 225 right now. Nothing's changed to me, just the price, right? So if that's the case, I still think it heads over $300 in the coming weeks and months. So I'll continue to look for opportunities on that one. And then on the flip side here, and yesterday afternoon with the SPY breaking 660, I think it was like 1230. I was looking for Broadcom puts. The 320s were like 55 cents. So I almost pulled the trigger. Then I passed, and I'm like, oh, good thing I did it. I didn't add those because it went all the way up to 340. And then you start looking, it's tight. And look at these candles here. It's almost like doji candles. Doji typically means indecisive, right? The market's deciding direction. You look and its gap move from its earnings was 334. So I think if it gets under that, and right now is at 334.24, you have to think maybe it's going to head down to 320. So tough one to trade, but if there is this kind of circle jerk starts to crumble a little bit, the names like the Broadcoms, MBIS is the other one, right? That used to be Yandex back in the day, ticker YNDX, and then the whole Ukraine thing and Russia and the delisting of some of these names. But anyway, another name that's really what they have the partnership with NVIDIA, just another name that's just maybe there's some froth, right? And some of these names might pull for no other reason than because they've run up so far so fast. So the tough thing is, I was talking about SanDisk yesterday too, is like trying to find decent risk reward strikes. SanDisk, when I was looking at it, I think it was $105 yesterday, and now it's at 95. And even if you try to get some of the puts, the 90 puts, the spreads are so wide, it's tough to get on a risk reward basis. And then not only that, I always say this on an illiquid name, it's the part is the exit strategy, right? If it goes the wrong way, how are you going to get out when there's no bid, right? So, and a lot of times you don't want to be hitting the bid on an option because market makers typically will play the games. But anyway, that's kind of what I'm looking at here today. Same with SQQQ. I put on the watch list. I thought 17 calls. It's sitting here. It's 1584. So I might trade that one. And then I did get those GLD puts at the end of the day. It was actually up nearly 0.5% gold earlier. Silver's up here today. I think at some point that 3,700, that's the key spot. So I think there'll be some kind of 2, 3, 4% move to the downside at some point. So I'll just continue to hold those October strikes. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. 3 minutes to the open. Rock and roll.